Well, hello everybody, my name's Tel and welcome to Tel's Bench, and today it's a bit of a different video yet again. So, you may not know, well you probably don't know, but I'm a keen motorcyclist and I have been for many years, and I own a VFR 800 A6, so that's a 2006 manufacturer date, and I've had it for many years and it's worked wonderfully for most of those years until about 2018 I think. And one day it just failed on me. I thought it was a bad battery or something and put a new battery in and failed again. So I thought, well, something else wrong here. So I decided to have a look at the electrical charging system and I changed the stator, which generates the voltage to charge the battery. And then it failed again. So I changed the stator and the rectifier regulator and it failed again. Now, granted, I was coming from a Honda part to a Chinese stator, so I can hear you all going, "Oh well, that's the problem. That's the problem." But I don't think it was. Anyway, I went through this cycle about 3 times, thinking that I'd finally cracked it. So this video really is about the last leg of this journey, which started in October last year. And as you can see in the picture, there I am, broken down again, on the side of the road, cars whizzing past me at 50 miles plus per hour, no verge really, only on the other side of the road, so pretty dangerous. And there's the recovery vehicle, as you can see, and I'm about to get hauled up the ramp onto the recovery vehicle to take me home. By this time I'd had absolutely quite enough, and I decided I was going to either sell the bike or probably more likely take a sledgehammer to it and smash it to pieces, because when you can't trust your bike, who can you trust? You know, your bike is something you really need to be able to trust, especially if you're going to go long distances. Fortunately, this was only 25 miles away, so it wasn't a problem. It was only a 25-minute journey, I think, to getting home. But anyway, I've left it alone for the winter, and in those 6 months, I've calmed down quite a bit. And I've thought, okay, let's get my sensible head on, and let's look at the options. So this is what this video is all about. So this is my bike that I've had for many, many, many years now, and I've enjoyed riding this. It's done a lot of miles now. It's done over 50,000 miles, and it's been a fantastic bike. And I've had accidents on it, not major accidents, but I've had little accidents on it where it's fallen over and stuff like that. And yeah, I still love it. I still love the bike. It's got such a nice view from the back. It looks gangster, really, really gangster. And why buy a new bike if you can use what you've already got, right? So that's my intention, is to try and get this up and running. I'm going to buy a MOSFET regulator rectifier, which are apparently better. That's what they say. So that's what I'm going to get. And it will be another Chinese, unfortunately, it will be another Chinese stator, because I don't think the problem is inherently in the stator. But this motorcycle company that I'm buying it from, they use them all the time. So if there was any problems with them, then I'd expect they wouldn't be using it. So I'm going to put some trust in them on what they're buying and using en masse. We'll see where it gets us. Hopefully it will be alright. But what I'll be doing when I get the new one, we'll be doing some tests. That's what we'll be doing. We'll check that it's working the way it's supposed to work before I even venture out on the road on my lovely bike. But while we're waiting for those parts to come, we'll start doing some work on the bike in prep. Right, okay, so hopefully you can see the 3 wires. So what I'm going to do now is try and go between the different coils. So the bottom one and the middle one. I've got 1 ohm, no, not even 1 ohm, 0.8 of an ohm there, 0.05 of an ohm, in between these two, 0.7 an ohm. So they're all looking different. But they look to be quite low. I think the resistance expected would have been a bit higher than that. So I'm going to cut these off and then we'll take it out. I should really desolder it, but I can't be bothered, so I'm just going to cut it. I'm going to cut it on the side that goes into the stator itself, just about here and here and here. So when I resolder the new one, I can just put the iron on it and just drop off this segment of cable that's been still left soldered on, put the new one on. Okay. So let me go and get those snips. Actually, maybe I can do it with a knife. Let's see. See if I can do it without... No, I'm not going to do that. That's going to make a problem. Right, so I'm going to use these crummy snips. Can still just about solder that back on again if I found that the stator was okay, but I very much doubt that it will be. So there you are. It's time to get the stator out. Right, so this pipe is in the way, but it doesn't matter. We'll be able to get all these out. It's probably going to drop a bit of oil out, but it won't be much. Really should put a bit of cardboard underneath it, so when I get closer to putting it off, I will. So there you go, that's the screw. So there's a bunch of these around here. As I say, I can't remember the exact number. It's easier to just take the ratchet off actually at this point and just get the screw out by hand. It's quicker. I've done this, as I say, I've done this a few times, and it's not a terrible job. It's just a bit annoying. So that's 3. Here comes number 4. There's number 4. Number 5. This time I really have to get this fixed because I've physically broken down and had to be recovered several times now, and it's becoming a real problem. I've had this bike since new, and it's been, other than these problems with the stator, it's been great. I've done all my own maintenance on it, changed all sorts of things on it. And I know it, I know the bike, I know how it feels to ride, and I really like it. Yeah, I'm very fond of it, actually. I'm just not fond of it letting me down. Because once that goes, once all the lights disappears on the panel, the instrument panel, you know that's it. It's not going to last very long, so at that point you need to find a safe place to stop. Immediately plan recovery. And right, so here's the last one. Yeah. So we'll go with the sages, those wise men and women who have told me that this is not a stator problem, although the stator does go. At this point we should be able to get this out of the way now. That's one of the overflow pipes. We just need to get it out of the way really, because it's just annoying. It goes down in a channel of 4 other ones down there. So it should be okay to actually remove it now. Okay, is it going to come out? I hope so. Shit, there's the oil. I forgot to put the... It won't be much, but no, it's stained my garage floor, but never mind, what can you do? Right, okay, so the stator is off its mountings. And... interesting. You can see the stator there. So it's not as bad as I thought. I mean, normally they're totally blackened, but this isn't. This is not. It looks a bit blackened around there, so I'm not convinced that it's in very good shape. And in fact, actually there, look at that. What is that? Where has that come from? It's an incinerated piece of wire. Well, that definitely wasn't there when I fitted it, that's for sure. So the difference between then and now, I mean the last time, was I had a whole section here that were all blackened. But there's no doubt about it, there's something wrong with this. All I want to do is I want to take these out here and this out, and so I can remove the stator, and then have a look at the insulation, statorless insulation on the other side. It might be okay this time, but I bet it's not. Okay, this will be off in a minute. That's another one. And another one. Come on, baby. So the one that's clamping the 3 yellow wires are the next ones to come out. That sits right down there. Alright, so let's have a look on the other side. Oh yes, there it is. That's all of the insulation has burnt out. If you can see that, that's what happens to a stator. So the insulation has burnt before the coil has burnt by the looks of it. So yeah, absolutely useless. So that's step one. That's the condition of the stator. It has, the insulation at least has burnt out, and also these little wires here are actually what's wrapped around this. It sort of binds it. It's absolute crap. I can say without any doubt in my mind that this is absolutely rubbish from China. And there you go. I don't actually know what the state of the coils are, although they look as if as I say, they look a bit blackened, which usually means that the insulation has broken down, and that's probably what's happened through excess heat. It's raised the temperature and burnt the insulation off the wires. These always go. So I believe that the insulation that they use is insufficient for these high temperatures, but if it's operating properly, then these high temperatures probably wouldn't have happened in the first place. Keep the stator in a separate package, separate to all the other screws. So now all of those screws and brackets are associated with that. So I can put that to one side now. So from the research I've done on this particular issue, a lot of people are telling me that it's generally, if you get something that's repeatedly going like the stator and you've changed the regulator, then it's more likely to be a grounding problem somewhere on the loom. So what I'm going to do is check some of the ground points that are salient, of useful interest to check on the bike, and some of the other connections around the battery and so forth. I just want to eliminate that before I go any further. There's a fairly substantial earth connection there, which I've taken off. Let me see if I can pull that out of the way so you can see it. It's got two welded connections there, which are pressed together and then screwed into the chassis. I've taken those off and I've sanded those down, so I think they're okay now. Did the same to the earth terminal, or the ground terminal rather, of the battery, and also for the positive terminal of the battery. Cleaned all these auxiliary pins up, these auxiliary connections here. I lost my connection to the stator, it just fell out the other side. So I pushed this piece of mains cabling through the engine so that I can put it back through. And let me show you the other side. Yeah, so it comes in there, or goes out there, whichever way you want to look at it, near this water hose there, radiator hose, and it comes up to these two sockets here. The top one there is the output of the regulator, rectifier, and then the other end will come in to what will be this. So this is the old rectifier, which I'm going to take out. I'll try and show you the condition of, I don't know if you can really see it with this light, but they're pretty bad. And that's you can see how dark and crappy they are. So I'm not going to clean those up because I'm going to put a new rectifier in, but I will try and clean up where it goes to. So this one is the stator output. So yeah, that's going to be okay because it's going to go into a brand new connector down there with a new stator, and this is the only one that probably needs some attention. So the top one there, this is the output of the regulator, rectifier. The only thing I can really do there is squirt some contact cleaner up there
and push it in and out several times to try and get a better connection, because there's not much I can do about that really. It's tight in a harness. I think it will be alright.
So the regulator, rectifier and the stator have arrived. We're just beginning to open it and have a look at the contents here. But these are the boxes that it appears to be coming in. So we have two things in the package. Weight of that is definitely the stator. Definitely the stator. No two ways about it. And there she is. It's a regular box from I don't know who. Comes through West Country Ridings. So let's have a look at the stator itself. Let's have a look. Now, I have to say at first glance, this looks better. I can't say for sure it is better, but it looks better. I mean, the coils themselves, I'm pretty certain that those coils are more the windings are more substantial. I haven't got my meter with me at the moment, so I can't actually verify. But I mean, it's essentially they're all stators are pretty much the same. The only thing that I'd be concerned about is these wires, these yellow wires. They seem a bit less soft, the insulation on those, than the ordinary ones I've seen. So we've got this thing that plugs into the rectifier regulator. Hopefully that's long enough, and if it isn't, then it isn't. But we'll see. So let's have a look at the regulator rectifier. So this is the bit that's going to be different for us. Ooh, that's interesting. Oh my god, I hope that's okay. That looks pretty big to me. That looks pretty tall. I'm not sure this is going to fit on the bike because the original rectifier is about this wide, and if I'm not mistaken, the bolts are nearer the top, but we'll have to have a look. So we got these massive stator winding things here, which is fine. So that looks good. That looks good. And the other two things, which I've now got to get to the other end of the bike, are two big fat wires. So it's not one thing that has to go through the body, it's two. Right, didn't expect that really, I suppose. But what did I expect? I don't know. I'm not sure whether this is going to go. These are big wires, but then there's a lot of current potentially coming out of there, so that's good. That's good. My main concern is that this is not going to fit underneath in its normal position, and also that the stator wires are not too long. You know, the three phase windings are not too long, so I'm not sure how this is going to work out. So this may give me a problem. It may give me a problem. I don't know. We'll have to see if it does. It might be all right. It might be all right. All right then, folks. So here's the old stator, which I showed you earlier, with its soldered leads, cut soldered leads. And I just fitted the new stator. As you can see, it's all glowing. These leads here always seem to be too long for some reason. I know you've got this bracket here and a bolt that goes down there, but it always seems too long and ends up being wrapped around here behind this bracket. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be, but that's the way it always is. It always has been with all of the stators. And it's hard to move these yellow cables through this rubber grommet. So there's 4 screws, bolts I should say, to screw this down, and obviously the one over there for the cable clamp. I can't ever find any torque settings for this, so I just did it up quite tight, but not ridiculously tight. And that seems to have worked okay in the past. So there's that. Right, let's go and have a look at what I've done with the regulator. So the regulator did manage to fit, if you can see behind there. There's a couple of terminals that had to go on. And if I can see in there, there's another one down there. But they're clamped on the top of the regulator, not in my mind, the right place. The other regulator was a solid through hole. So it didn't have to span a gap. On this it does. So it's quite close actually to the mounting. So I've fed the yellow stator wires out down there, and I've fed the plus and minus, which are going to the battery, not under the tank but on the side of the tank. It goes around there and up through an aperture there. I've checked that there's, this is loose, this is movable.
as you can see. So there's nothing pinning it. And on the other side, out comes that. So that is slightly too long, but I think we'll be okay. We'll manage with that. So the next thing to do is to get the regulator on. So it's going to be refitting that. But before we do that, we need to decide how to get the regulator cables through. Sorry, not regulator cables. The stator cables, the 3 yellow stator cables. So earlier I put this through, which was a bit of cable through the engine, which is where it goes basically, and it comes out on this side. So the problem with this is I don't know whether we will get that cable through. It's a pain in the backside, and that has got to plug in to this, which is from the regulator, directly from the regulator, rectifier. So it's all a bit cramped and all a bit nauseating, actually, in a way. So I think the first thing to do, do you know, I really don't want to do this, because if something happens when I'm trying to pull that through and it doesn't go through, then we've got a real problem. So the other alternative is to chop the 3 yellow wires on the other side, almost at the stator, and pull those chopped wires through this way from this cable, solder it on the other side. But I would actually rather try to have it plug in, if I could. That would be the best thing. So I'm kind of, I don't know what to do here. Because if I start putting it through and it gets locked, I'm going to have a hell of a problem putting it back through again. So I'm not really sure which way to do it. Having been through this hell before, my inkling is to pull just the 3 yellow cables through and to solder it on the other side. So that is my thinking, but I'm kind of on the lazy side and I don't really want to do the soldering either, and I'd rather have the plug come through directly so that there's no soldered connections. Ooh, this is going to be horrible. This is going to be horrible. Well, I should be able to put it back, I guess. That's the thing. Once I put it through, or should I? Should I? What if it gets stuck in there and won't come out and won't go through? Then I'm really in the shit, aren't I? So part of me is saying, no, chop the wires, stick it onto this bit, solder them on the other side, and then you can't go wrong. Now, if I have to put another stator through, I can do that, the same thing again. And at least I'll have a sort of permanent cable. So I think that's what I'm going to do on balance. Right, I've managed to actually get these wires through. I don't know if you can see. They did manage to pull these cables through. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cut these here. And then we're going to solder them on the other side. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of leeway here and cut them about there. So this cable now is going to get fed through. Okay, that is the idea. I need a little bit more space on here to the wire up, cutting the wire. Sorry, the heat shrink sleeving that I intend to use. Yeah, so that should be enough. Right, so I need to take that and try and put it through, so that's what I'm going to do now. Right, so I managed to get it through. I just need to get this tape off now, which I've just about done. Let's see where we are with these. Well, I thought I'd just cut these to the same length, and now they seem different again. What's going on? Right, okay, so we've got those there, and we've got those there. So what I think, before I put these on, before I put this back on, this stator, what I will do is I'll cut and tin these wires, and then we'll put it back in, organise the wires so that they can be easily soldered together. Get the heat shrink on there, and if I've got any, I hope I have, otherwise I'm in trouble. And then just bolt it back in, and then it'll be okay. So just putting the battery back in, attaching the connectors from the regulator rectifier, and starting the bike up. Okay, so let me just do this now. I will go and get soldering iron and I'm going to solder it in. So, strippers, cutters, long nose pliers, solder, shrink sleeve, wrapping which will decrease its size under heat. So that's the way we do it. Yeah, by the time you get solder joint in the middle there, those will be fine. So 2 of those. And I've just turned the solder on, it's up at 450. So the first thing to do is to take a little chunk off this insulation. I hope that didn't go in the stator. Right, tin-in process is fairly straightforward. Just put some solder on it. Be generous with the solder, because you've got to make a good joint. Okay, right, so that's the one that's coming through there. Now we've got to do the same thing with the stator, which I don't know if you can see it down there. It's going to be hard for me to do this one in camera, actually. I think I will solder it, and hopefully you should be able to see it. Yeah, you can see it. Okay. Right, that should be okay now. Okay, so I've got 3 of these and we should be able to push those up inside so they're ready for when we want them. And then we can put the stator back in. Gone up a little bit too far. There we go. Doing work on a motorcycle without safety shoes, not a good idea really. I've just realised that I didn't have any shoes on. But anyway, all the heavy lifting's been done now, so no need to worry about that. Right, so I think...
So I hadn't ordered any gaskets specifically for this job because I completely forgot about it. But fortunately, as if by magic, I found some. I think the last time I had problems, I managed to order some replacements, which was very lucky because I definitely needed those now. So let's see if we can fit it on. I think I can remember how to put it on. It should be fine. Might need to put some oil around the gasket just to give it a better seal.
I'll take some oil out of there and just spread it on this just a little bit. Give it a nice covering of oil. It's got something to tack onto. Right, let's go again. Let's go again. Let's twist again like we did last summer, as the song says. Right, okay, I think we're in good shape. Let's get it on, baby. Let's get it on. So this is the tricky bit. One has to watch one's fingers and just pulls itself in. There you go, it's in. And there are 3 little cables. Okay, it's good enough for me. I think that's all flat now. Right, so all I need to do now is...
Right, I'm not going to bore you with all, because I just need to just go to sleep. So I'm going to whiz through this and then we'll get on with the next bit.
8 bolts in total. Right. Just give them a little turn. I'm not going to go too crazy on these. I don't want to tie up too much because that would be even worse. I'm holding the socket near the centre point here because I don't want to put too much force. And I think that's it. I think we're done. We're done for that. So I'm going to wash my hands because I'm going to be doing soldering and I don't want oil on them. Right, we're going to solder these on one at a time. So let's get that into position.
So in this little section, I'm just soldering the wires together and trying to get the heat shrink on top. But what's happening is, because there's not much distance between where the heat shrink sleeving is stored and where the joint is, the heat is travelling up the wire, and that is enough to shrink the heat shrink sleeving So it's making it a bit difficult for me. I'd rather have the heat sink way away from the wire. But I solder on and pretty much get it all done, get them all soldered, get the heat shrink sleeves over the top, and then shrink them with the heat of the iron, and eventually everything gets into place and it's all hunky-dory.
Right, so that's done now. All this is finished up here, and I've measured only 0.7 or about 0.7, 0.8 of an ohm between the three yellow wires and any combination. And none of them are connected to ground in any way. There's absolutely no resistance at all. Right, okay, so that's all the connections done, soldered, heat shrinked. I've fed one of the pipes through down to the underside, and I think there might be another one, I can't remember. Yes, there is. There's one from the water bottle, which will have to be put around there, but I'm not going to worry about that now. So the next thing to do is to do this. It's going to be too difficult to film this with the equipment I've got actually, so what I'll do is I'll just make the connections and then I'll resume the video from there. Right, okay, so all the cabling's done. The battery and all the auxiliaries are all piped in. So at the moment the voltmeter is showing 12.6, which is about right. So I'm going to turn the ignition on and we'll see if it will start. Okay, so as you see here, we've got nothing plugged in. Okay, so that's just the bike starting at the moment. So it didn't shift when I revved it up. And now I'm going to plug this in. And we're going to start her up again. So as you can see, I'm turning up the revs, but it's not getting any more voltage than that. Now the battery is not really very well charged at the moment, so it's not surprising that it's taking a bit of extra current. So I'm going to let that run for a little bit.
So it appears that it's working as expected. It's maintaining a constant upper voltage, and it seems to be operating the bike and charging the battery at the same time. So it's got up to temperature pretty much now. So its idle speed will come down from probably 1500 shortly to about 1200, 1200, something like that. Yeah, so I think this is looking good. The only thing I need to do is tidy up the power cables coming from the output of the regulator rectifier by the tank, and I think we're probably done. And then we're going to need to get the fairings put on. So that will be the next thing to do. Be working as well as I can tell. Only time will tell if it's going to be a long-lasting fix. I've got a good feeling about it. I think it will be, because having observed the readings previously when I've introduced a new stator, etc., I haven't had that consistency. I guess I didn't really know what I was looking for, in terms of consistency before, but this looks more consistent. So, I mean, the amount of voltage that you're going to get on the battery on a proper working unit is going to vary slightly depending on how many revs you got. So when I first started up on the bike, as well as the battery being a bit low, it was obviously a slightly higher level of revs, because that's what it does when you start the bike, and then it will drop down to about, I don't know, 1200 RPM, something like that. I can't remember what the figure is now. So yeah, it's normally up like 1500 RPM or something like that when you start it. So it's looking okay. It's definitely looking okay at the moment. So what I'm going to do is have a quick tidy up, and probably fit the fairings tomorrow, and then we'll see where we go from there.
All right. I didn't wait till the next day. I just couldn't rest until I put it all back together. So all the fairings are on. It still seems to be working okay as far as I can tell. And it's been started up a few times. I've checked everything. Fairings on there, all ready to rock and roll, on charge, waiting for tomorrow morning. It's an absolutely disgusting day here in the UK, as always. So can't wait for tomorrow. I just hope it doesn't rain like it has for the other 90 days of this year, or whatever it is we've been through. I think it's 90 days, isn't it? Roughly. Yep. So here we go. There's my gangster punnets.
So these videos take a lot of effort to put together. I don't have expensive equipment, and I don't have any assistants or editors or anything like that. It's just me doing it. So it would be great if you're not a subscriber, if you could subscribe and like the video, because it really helps me, and I'm only on this tiny little channel trying to sort of get a foothold. So yeah, if you did like it, if you did enjoy it or found it useful and helpful, do subscribe and like, and turn your notifications on. You know the drill. With that said, I will see you next time.
It's gonna be all